Okay, so this is the answer booklet for the 2.1.2 Protecting Our Environment practice questions. So the first question is, in 1960, a survey of a large pond on a farm was found that it contained very rich variety of aquatic insects, snails and 4 different fish species. In 1965, the farmer started growing cereal crops on his land. Pellets containing nitrate were spread on the crop several times a year. The pond had become overgrown with algae and other aquatic plants, and the new survey found that there were very few aquatic insects and no fish species. State why the farmer spread nitrate on the cereal crops. We need to remember that nitrate, is a nutrient that plants need, so it's going to increase the growth. Then use the information opposite and your own knowledge to explain the changes which occurred in the pond. So obviously said in the question that the farmer is spreading crops on his land. That fertiliser that contains the nitrate will run off into the pond, and it runs off through excess rain. Add it in, runs off through excess rain. Then what happens, because we've got excess fertiliser and excess nitrate now in the water, it causes the plant algae to grow on the surface of the pond, and it covers the entire surface. If you look in ponds, it's that massive green thing on the pond. With that then, plants beneath the surface die as sunlight cannot reach beneath the surface. So if there's no sunlight then, the plants can't photosynthesize. Okay. As they can't photosynthesize, what's not being produced? Oxygen isn't being produced by photosynthesis, so the oxygen levels in the water decrease and the fish die. Next question, a photograph shows a farmer spraying crops with a pesticide. Explain why spraying crops with pesticides may increase crop yield on farms. So there's going to be no pests, as the pesticides kill pests, so it's going to increase the crop yield. And for the second mark, we have to say that the pests are those that would eat or harm the crop. It's pointless killing pests that aren't going to harm the crop that they are on. Second question then, some species have harmful side effects. Choose words from the list below to complete the following sentence. So pesticides such as DDT may build up in food chains to toxic levels, causing reduced fertility or death to third stage consumers. Our second question then, our indicator species. So recent flooding in the UK caused a sewage discharge into a river. 2 weeks after the discharge, the Environment Agency took samples of river water at 3 sample points and 0.5 kilometres apart. The percentage of dissolved oxygen in the sample was measured, and the animals in the samples were counted and the data plotted as a pie chart. The results are shown below. So you can see in the first one, we have sludge worms, we have rat-tailed maggots, no water lice. Second sample point, we've got rat-tailed maggots, but less, more sludge worms and a few water lice. And the last one, we've got loads of water lice, no rat-tailed maggots and a few sludge worms. It says, use information for the diagram opposite to answer the following questions. In the presence of which 2 animals in the samples indicates high levels of water pollution? So if I zoom in back onto our diagram, we've got recent flooding and then sample points. So the sewage is discharged here. So the highest point of pollution would be at the top. So if we're looking at the 2 that I've found, we've got sludge worms and rat-tailed maggots. Make it smaller. Which animal cannot live in highly polluted waters? Well, out of the 3, if I zoom back in so you can see, highly polluted, we have no water lice. They're found down the bottom where there's very little pollution. They like clean water. What happens to the percentage of dissolved oxygen as the water flows downstream? So as the water flows downstream, the percentage, so here it's 0, then it's 17, and then it's 30%. So it increases as we go down the stream. Rat-tailed maggots need oxygen to live. Suggest how they can live at sample point 1 when no oxygen is dissolved. They obviously swim to the surface of the water so they can get oxygen from the air around them. The photographs below show 3 forms of lichen. We've got a drawing of 1 form is shown below. Use the photographs above to identify the form of lichen shown in the drawing. So look at the picture, it looked like our fruticose. So we're going to circle it. Make sure we circle it because it says circle. Question 3. A table compares PVC and wooden window frames. The data can be used to decide which is more sustainable option. Use the information in the table to answer the following questions. Give one reason why the wooden window frames will not have much impact on landfill sites than those made from PVC. And if you look at the waste without the recycling, because it's in landfill, it's not recycling, that the wood has less waste compared to the PVC. Give one reason why the wooden window frames will have more impact on fish compared to those made from PVC. It's because we have more phosphate than PVC that's washed into streams, so impacting our fish. Give one reason why the wooden window frames will not have much an impact on the atmosphere as those made from PVC, and it's because less carbon dioxide is produced, so it's not going to contribute to global warming and climate change. Give 2 reasons why less fossil fuels are used with the wooden window frames than PVC. Oh, it's chopped off my number 2. So we've got less coal to produce them. And then we could say, what's my other one? Natural gas consumption. Again, we could say there's less waste at landfill sites. Okay, reduce, reuse, and recycle schemes promote sustainability. State one impact on reduced schemes on obtaining new raw materials. So less raw materials are used. So if we're reducing our schemes, we're going to use less raw materials, so there's going to be less pollution. Explain the benefit of reuse schemes and landfill. So it's going to be less waste at landfill if we're reusing a lot of our stuff. And we're going to need less land for the landfill sites. Explain how recycle schemes affect energy demand. So raw materials last longer because we're going to recycle all of our stuff, and less energy is used in recycling. Less landfill waste will be produced if people reduce, reuse and recycle. Complete the table below to state whether each action is an example of reduce, reuse or recycle. The first one's been done for you. So make compost from leftover fruit and vegetables, recycling. Buy food with less packaging, so that's reducing our packaging. Buy bags for life, reuse. You could also then reduce for that one if we're reducing the amount of plastic bags. Don't buy more than you need, so reduce. Reduce, reuse and recycle schemes are used to promote sustainability. Complete the table to state whether each method is an example of a reduce, reuse or recycle scheme. Okay, so very, very similar questions you can see that's coming up. So charging shoppers for carrier bags, reduce or reuse. Crushing and melting aluminium drink cans to make new ones, recycling. Using low energy lamps, reducing. Donating clothes and furniture to charity shops, that's reusing. Insulating homes, reducing. Some of these methods reduce the waste sent to landfill sites. State 2 benefits of reducing landfill waste. Obviously, again, there's less land needed and there's less damage, less pollution to the environment. Question 5, conservation. The black-faced lion is a species of monkey living in the forests in South America. The black-faced lion tamarin is classified as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List and listed on Appendix 1 of CITES. There are only about 400 individuals remaining in the wild. On the sliding scale above suggests what will happen to the black-faced lion tamarin unless measures are taken to conserve the species. So here, at the moment it's here. If you don't put any measures in place, it's going to move towards the right. So it's going to become extinct, or you could say become extinct in the wild, either one of those two. If conservation measures fail, state what will happen to the biodiversity of the habitat in which the black-faced lion lives. So the biodiversity, remember, is the number of different species in a particular area or habitat in a particular habitat. So if our black-faced tamarin becomes extinct, what's going to happen then? If you've got one less species there, they become extinct, we're going to reduce the biodiversity. Okay, it's going to get less, it's going to decrease. The rainforest habitat of the black-faced lion tamarin has been cleared to grow maize. Small populations of the monkey now live in isolated pockets of rainforests. The local people are being paid to start local plant nurseries and to plant corridors of native trees which link up the isolated pockets of the rainforest. The diagram shows an aerial view of the rainforest which is being cleared and planted with maize. So just one reason why the local people are prepared to give up some of their farmland in order to create the corridors. When the question, it said that they were paid for it. They're going to get money and benefit that way. Suggest ways in which the corridor system shown can be improved. So if you can see the corridor system here, okay, we could say that the corridors could be made wider. We could make the corridors wider. They're quite narrow for the moment. We could make them much wider. And then we could link up all of the isolated pockets. We could add a corridor over here so we can link up all of the isolated pockets in the rainforest. How will the corridor system help conserve and increase the number of black-faced lions in the rainforest? Well, it's going to allow more space for mating because you can have male ones here able to go find females to mate. Allow more area to find food. So if resources that are short here, they can move elsewhere to find food. And they can avoid predators. Okay, so if there's lots of predators here, they are then able to go to different pockets to avoid predation. State one other way in which endangered species can be conserved. So we've got zoos with our breeding programmes, conservation programmes such as WWF. That's not the wrestling. Number 6, practical indicator species. So again, looking at indicator species. A factory discharge waste into a river. Gainer tested the pH of the water in the river at 8 sites. She recorded her results on the map of the river as shown below. How many of the sites is the water alkaline? So it's basically chemistry knowledge. So anything alkaline is anything above 7. So we have 2 sites. We've got 8.4 and 8.2. So 2 sites. What is the evidence that the factory waste entering the river is acidic? Because the water becomes acidic after the waste enters. So the waste enters here and the water drops from alkaline beforehand to acidic waters. And then the further away we get from the waste entering, the pH starts to go back up to alkaline. Gainer recorded the presence and absence of 3 species of invertebrates at each of the sites in the river shown below. Use a table to state the name of the invertebrates which is a useful indicator in this investigation. So I chose mayfly nymph because it's present in the alkaline conditions, isn't present in the acidic conditions. We now know that the pollution is acidic. And then pH 7 is neutral, where we then find the mayfly nymph again. Country bloodworm, because they're found pretty much everywhere. And rat-tailed maggot, there's no real correlation as to where they're found. Explain your answer to part B. So they're only present in the alkaline water and isn't present in the acidic polluted waters. So if you don't find the mayflower nymph, we know there's pollution inside the water.